Okay, it's time to kick the three defiant Party Māori MPs out of Parliament for giving the one-fingered salute to the Privileges Committee. Kick them out, stop paying them. Yes, that includes the two co-leaders. Send them a message that this is New Zealand's tikanga, and if you don't play by the rules, then we'll stop paying you, and you are out. And would you take your child into the worst, most deviant and depraved library of them all, where the creeps and the perverts and the pimps run freely? Well, it's too late, they're there anyway. So what are you doing about it? We'll look at that tonight too. Welcome to the program.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan, Garner.
Okay, you're with the Editor-in-Chief. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you. Nice to have you along. Yes, subscribe, please. Here's the old message. If you can, just jump on the button there and push that. We really appreciate it. If you don't like the F word, then close your ears just for a couple of seconds, because they simply said fuck you to the Privileges Committee, to the Parliament, and to every New Zealander, regardless of race, creed, colour, or whatever it is that you say you are, by refusing to front to Parliament's highest court, the powerful committee of senior MPs that make up the Privileges Committee. Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, Rawiri Waititi, and Miss Maipi-Clarke signed their exit. They signed their exit letter from the New Zealand Parliament. Don't want to play ball? Fine. See ya. You're on your own. Maybe we should cut their pay and say goodbye. Will the Privileges Committee boot these activists down the road? Well, you can only hope they have the balls to do it, because, well, is there only one law in New Zealand, or are there two? Let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
So it seemed like a great stunt at the time, didn't it? Two co-leaders and the youngest MP engaging in a rare haka inside Parliament. It rocked social media, stopped our Parliament, of course, altogether. Have a look. Remember this? Spine-tingling stuff, the stuff that makes social media lose its shit, and it did. For the Māori MPs who crave social media attention, it was a job well done. Turn up to work, oppose, break the rules, shut down the Parliament, make the internet go crazy, and now refuse to turn up to face the music. Haka like that is banned in the Parliament. Otherwise, it would be haka a minute, wouldn't it, most likely? So the MPs were sent to the Privileges Committee by Speaker Jerry Brownlee to receive their punishment for openly and knowingly breaking the rules, defying the Speaker's demands to stop. But this week, they refused to show up. Try that next time you get a court summons and you'll be arrested. But not this lot. They simply said not playing by your silly rules, said Waititi. And the long-established committee rules, he said, were just simply silly games. This is democracy, mate. We're paying you $200K to take part in it. If you don't like it, leave your swipe card at the door on the way out and fend for yourself, pal. Imagine describing Māori protocols and rules, as silly. Imagine the offence taken, the claims of racism would fly around, apologies would be sought, jeepers creepers. It would derail the country for days as they hung you high in the local square for the country to see. The mainstream media aren't going to whack this party for fear of getting offside or for fear of being called a redneck or racist. This is not about race. This is about a party refusing to play by the rules that everybody else has to. And Labour's Penny Henali, who also jumped in and performed the haka that day, well, he's turned up and had his day. With his tail firmly planted between his legs, he said sorry. He humbled himself, and he actually said you've got to play by the rules. He did that. But this group clearly is showing us that they ain't succumbing to this Pākehā way and this Pākehā world with these evil colonisers who made the rules hundreds of years ago, and it's called the Westminster system. That's our system. Don't tell anyone. No way they are. They have to take the fat cat salary to make social media videos and prance around a Parliament stage, therefore giving them a platform to squeal and wail to those who support this separatist nonsense. But they're missing in action when it comes to being constructive and passing laws which might actually help their remaining supporters. Make no mistake, the party knows what it's doing. They're smart. This party is a group of activists and separatists who have infiltrated the Parliament, and they have no intention of being constructive or playing by the rules and going quietly. They are without doubt a protest movement, more interested in shouting and staging performances, say, on TikTok and Instagram, than they are writing private members' bills, lobbying members to vote for it, for their ideas, and changing lives. Their people may feel like they have a strong voice in Parliament, and it's true they have a loud voice, but what is actually being achieved apart from some publicity to keep them visible in front of their supporters? Maybe it's smart. As most minor parties disappear under MMP, and staying relevant is really hard. It's a hard job. So maybe we've got this wrong. It's a job well done. That depends, I suppose, if you get up each morning and want to help your people, or if you get up each morning and want to help yourself. This group doesn't represent Māori voters as a whole. They vote across party lines. Māori don't vote for one party. This party's a social media bubble looking for the next outrage. They prefer to post on TikTok rather than debate late into the night. Their attendance record in Parliament is the worst of any party. And they say in their defence that the haka that day was rooted in cultural expression, and they have been unjustly branded as disruptive and disorderly. This characterisation undermines the significance of tikanga, they say, and it highlights the ongoing marginalisation of te iwi Māori within the parliamentary system. And they may have a point. This is New Zealand. We're uniquely New Zealand as a Westminster democracy. We have our sort of idiosyncrasies, and maybe we need to evolve our rules to take into account tikanga Māori in the Parliament. Certainly, I have no admiration or connection to the prayer that takes place each day. It's very archaic. It doesn't represent me. But maybe there is a time and a place to change those rules, and maybe that's achievable through sitting down and convincing the Speaker and other party leaders of the need to modernise and make this about more New Zealand facing. And I think it's highly achievable. But they don't do it this way. This is not the way to do it. This doesn't win friends and influence people. There's a reason Westminster rules are Westminster rules, because this is who we are. It dates back centuries. This is an excuse to dodge accountability and play it up to the crowd. If I was Judith Collins, who's the chair of the Privileges Committee, I'd suspend these buggers from Parliament and stop their pay immediately until they return to Parliament and take their punishment and say sorry like Penny Henardy's done. They're grandstanding, which is in their DNA. That's been the story of Te Pāti Māori this entire term. Grandstand and shout rather than work on the inside for real change. Make them martyrs. That's what they want. So kick them out, brace for the fallout, woe is me and all that. Parliament must win this, and it must not buckle about what it does next. Tikanga matters. Parliament's tikanga matters. It must not bend the rules and lower expectations for one party based on who they are, based on their race. So let's have lower expectations for Māori, lower rules, different rules. No. One rule, one country, one way. If they don't want to play by those rules, there are plenty of people lining up to carry their bags to the nearest exit. To the Privileges Committee, this is your test. Have you got the nuts and the balls and the spine to do the right and correct thing? I'm not so sure, but this is your test.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Right, what are your kids up to? What are they watching online? Have you seen Netflix's Adolescence? It's confronting. How can we ever know what the impact is on our kids about what they see online? Well, she has fought this stuff for a long time, Holly Brooker, and she does fantastic work, great work. And now she set up this real-time library, the Worst Kids Library. The Worst Kids Library. And this is basically all the things that our kids see on the internet put into books. It is so confronting. It's open right now for you to go and see. In fact, just for the next 24 hours. So you can jump online and grab a ticket. So Worst Kids Library. It's just heinous what's there, basically. Confronting, sexual violence, sexual violence, rape, all sorts of things. It's all in books. Now, would we allow our kids to go to that library every day? Well, they are, because it's on their phones, and Holly's with me now. G'day, Holly. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice
so
to be here.
The Worst Kids Library, what a great concept. Tell me about it.
It's a really cool concept. It's an initiative that's been launched by Samsung and Safe Surfer. Safe Surfer have collaborated with Samsung and built a kids safe phone, which we've talked to you about before.
Yep.
They have worked with an advertising agency to take over a school library at Auckland Normal Intermediate School. They've taken all the books out of the library.
Wow.
And they have replaced them with books that have been basically replaced with actual content that from a multi-source data set that shows actual content that our young people can see online. So it's incredibly confronting.
So you can see some of these images on the screen now. If we just take some of these and have a look at it. I mean, I was going to say the word is confronting, because this is taking from the internet, putting it into the library in that real-time context. Welcome, parents. This is what your kids are viewing and seeing and digesting, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And I think that if we had books in an actual library showing this content, there'd be absolute outrage.
Well, it wouldn't get past the censor. It wouldn't get past a school censorship, would it?
Unfortunately, it does.
How?
Because it's not R18 rated, but it's still incredibly harmful content.
How is some of that? Yeah, okay. The way it's presented is you need it to be R18 almost restricted, don't you?
Well, I mean, some of the content, I should reframe that. Some of the content is R18, We've got content of like pornography.
Yep.
And, obviously kids shouldn't be seeing pornography until 18 and older. But
preferably
unfortunately,
never.
we don't have any age verification online, so our young people can see that content.
And we know that that's happening too. I mean, and younger, the access is getting easier and easier. Older
That's
brothers
right.
and sisters have phones, or they pass them down or whatever. And it's probably, the last time I spoke to you, it's probably worse now, is that right?
Yeah, well, that's right. So six years ago...
Yep. You carry on.
6 years ago, the Classifications Office did some research and found that 2/3 of New Zealand teens have seen porn, and
2/3.
1 in 4 kids have seen it under the age of 12. So that was 6 years ago.
Yeah. Well, so do we know what it is now?
Online, not in New Zealand. No, there is no more research in New Zealand. But in Australia, I just read some research a few weeks ago, and it was predominantly I can't give you the specifics.
No, but,
so
but
need
you
to
can't
edit
imagine
this,
it's got better.
No.
No. And look at what Australia's done. And I think that's a great idea to ban kids under 16. At least they're trying. Like people say, oh, it can't be done. How do you know until you give it a go?
I think that, what I appreciate about that is that it's really widening the conversation around what the actual harms are that our kids are exposed on these phones, because we've gone through this process of giving our kids smartphones, giving them devices, and not fully understanding the risks that they face.
Well, not at all understanding. It's not a matter of fully, but not at all understanding what you're putting in front of them. Like, when we grew up, we had the Encyclopedia Britannica. If you're lucky, put it in front of you. Otherwise, you just listen to your mum and dad and whatever nonsense they talked.
We had a bookshelf in our hallway full of encyclopedias, and that was where I went to for research.
Of course you did, and it dated pretty quickly, that stuff.
Yeah, and this is what I find interesting in the parenting education that I do when I do talks in schools is that parents aren't going onto these apps and platforms and looking for themselves at what their kids are seeing and what they can see. Yeah, recently I did a talk in school and I said, put your hand up if you've ever spent time on YouTube looking at what your kids could see, and no one put up their hand.
Parents are too busy. It's something else. It's another problem, someone else's problem. It's just over there.
I think there's also high trust. There's a high trust that someone, somewhere, is doing something about the harm, that someone's sorting it out, that the worst of the worst stuff's being dealt with.
It's not.
And what I've found in this advocacy space is it's not. There's nothing being done. So it is on us.
Do kids tell the parents the truth?
It depends on the relationship that kids have with their parents. So that is one of the fundamental things that we can do as parents, is we just have to embrace conversation around the online environment. And
kids aren't going to want
crucial.
to, though. I mean, look at adolescence. The first thing the little boy says to the father, spoiler alert, is he didn't stab the girl.
Research does show that our young people want to talk to adults about, particularly around sexual content, but they want to be kept safe. And so as adults, we have to embrace these hard and tricky conversations, and it's really confronting. I don't know what it is about Kiwi culture, but we can find it really challenging to have awkward conversations. Car trips are great.
I agree. It's like if, you're talking to your son about consent or alcohol, politics, how much you earn, all those things. It's just all, I don't know, we have a taboo in New Zealand about those sorts of things. We go, it's all a bit too much. It doesn't have to be. And the way forward is having a genuine relationship with your kids. Get to know them. That's
right. And I think being, not coming at it from a place of judgment or criticism, but just being genuinely curious. And I often find that if I lead with situations that I have experienced online, that can help open up conversations. Like, oh gosh, I was looking at something the other day and this thing popped up and it was really creepy and it made me feel pretty...
Make it normal.
Have you had that happen to you? Exactly. Because it is happening. They are seeing content. Their friends are sharing it. And if we don't talk about it, then they are kind of alone to process it by themselves.
And what does the research tell us? How does it impact them? So they see all this stuff, right? So they see porn and they see violence, they see sexual violence, they see rape scenes, they see all this sort of stuff played out. How does it then impact their life? How do they... are they mature enough and smart enough at some stage to say, we know that's not right, or we're not going to act this out, or they are acting it out and we are seeing that?
Well, I think that there's two things. Therapists would say that when our children see kind of harmful, disturbing content, it creates a trauma response within them, as if they were to see it in real life. And so that's a huge thing to consider. I had a mum tell me about her 9-year-old that was at a grandparent's house and she saw some really inappropriate content on the grandparent's iPad because it didn't have filtering. And she didn't sleep all night. Thankfully, she told her parents the next day, but it resulted in a year of anxiety and not being able to sleep. So this is a
not going
situation where a child has told their parent and they were able to help support them to navigate that, but it still took a year.
Well, you think about the fallout from that too. So then there's the conversation that the adult will have with the grandparents, whether it be the father-in-law or the mother-in-law, whatever they are. That's trauma for them, for the son or daughter, having to deal with that. So you've got a couple of layers there.
Yeah, and I think the other piece is that we just have, we're really normalising and I guess creating an environment of young people that are being desensitised to really graphic content. I had a friend yesterday tell me about a number of different situations that her one of her children has been involved with online, and it's grim. So, for example, playing Roblox and watching his friend's avatar having sex with another character. That's very normalised, not a big deal. That's hugely problematic when we've got our young people engaging with this type of behaviour and just thinking it's nothing.
People taking shots of themselves. I've noticed this with the kids that I'm involved in, not that my kids are doing this, but just the talk amongst them about some other people might be taking shots of their private parts and, doing things. And then it gets around a few people, and then suddenly it's the shame, the humiliation. This really, and this can lead to the worst possible outcomes. Kids just have to know that something that goes online of yourself will never go away.
Yeah. And it's really hard because I think often in these situations there's high trust. There's high trust that you're sending your image to someone that's going to keep it safe. So an example that comes to mind that a counsellor shared with me was a young girl was in a relationship with a boy and he pressured her to send some nudes. She didn't want to. She said no. He said, everyone's sending them, come on. She eventually sent the nude. He eardropped it to everyone in assembly. She didn't tell anyone. And for a year she went through a period of really quite serious distress and
illegal?
Anxiety. It is illegal. And she didn't tell any adult for a whole year, and her mum didn't know what was going on. After a year, she told her mum, and she was able to get the support that she needed. But, we have to have these conversations with our kids. We need them to know that if someone asks them for a nude, that's not okay, that it is illegal.
Yeah, no matter what age or whatever, don't do it.
That's right.
At school, I remember there were a couple of kids there that were doing some weird things like that, but they didn't have phones, so you were either in the changing rooms and saw what they were doing, or you didn't. And so word of mouth got around, but it didn't stick because there were no images. Yeah. But images are so punishing for people. They're so graphic and brutal and confronting, and there's no getting away from it.
No, and I think that having a phone is really like putting fuel on the fire because things can escalate dramatically as soon as a camera's involved.
Have we got this half right yet? Have we got a quarter right? I mean, where do you rate this? Because what are we creating? What is this generation of people holding because they're digital natives, right? Unlike us, these guys. They cling to these phones, and when they lose them or they misplace them, you know how desperate they are for them. So, what are we creating? What does 20 years look like?
Yeah, I think that we are in a very interesting environment in New Zealand, and we've talked about this before, that we don't have any regulation of online content. And so, there's some amazing stuff happening online for our kids. There's some great content, some really good educational stuff, some great ways for them to be able to connect with other people. But because we just have a real lack of regulation or a lack of a systemic approach to online harm, we've got a lot of risk for our young people. So as parents, we really have to put the fundamentals in place, which is we need robust filtering and parental controls, particularly for our younger kids. And as they get older, we want to develop critical thinking for them. So these conversations that we have, we bang on about this a lot. We need to talk with our kids.
What about a ban? What about a social media ban for under 16-year-olds like the Aussies?
I think an age restriction for social media is a topic that's really worth considering because a lot of the harm that's happening is on social media. So often we follow Australian policy around a number of issues. Why don't we just see how theirs goes and follow it? Well, I think that's the beauty of Australia's years ahead of us in terms of any kind of legislative reform.
Why?
They started the process about 10 years ago
Why are we so slow? This does my head in on everything.
Why are we so slow?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
We have reports. We talk about it. We talk about it. It's the same with everything we do in society.
Yeah.
And then nothing happens, and we finally wind up at the end, and it's all too late.
It's incredibly frustrating.
Look at vaping.
Yeah, I think in every meeting I've had with a government official or an MP, there's been support for, yes, we want to keep kids safe online, but there's little to no action.
Well, no, there's worse than that. They've actually, from the time that you and I last spoke, they've reduced the numbers of people that actually oversee this stuff in internal affairs.
Yeah, it's hugely concerning, and I think we just have to, as a collective, as a community, we have to make noise about this. We have to, and I think that the tide is turning. I think parents are a lot more aware now of the harm that our kids are facing and the addiction and the impacts on mental health. They're becoming a lot more concerned around tech, and that's, government will take action when the people make noise.
Yeah, but there's also this, you can see it playing out too. I see a number of, maybe it's always been like this, but I see a number of teenage boys in court for multiple sexual assaults and rape. I see them getting sent home on home detention to the house where it happened. I see them still have access to the internet. And these are not isolated cases. This is where they have been committed a rape or a sexual assault against multiple young girls.
Yeah.
And I see young girls meeting older men on, these different sites and things. And so the instance looks to me like it's got way worse.
Yeah,
just anecdotally.
I've got some stats here from the New Zealand Police. Between 2022 and 2023, the number of reports referred to police of child sexual abuse content posted and private messaged online, including sextortion, has increased by more than 4,500 to nearly 20,000 reports in 1 year.
That's 25% increase. Now, if you combine that and go next year, year after, you've got 100% increase. That's 20. I think we're still in the infancy of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is just what's being reported as well.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be worse. God, that's... So with the library, are you urging people, how do they see it? How do people get to see this?
To get to the library, you need to book a ticket on the link that will be provided in this episode. But I really encourage parents to get along to this event. There's been nothing like it before. Yeah. It's not... it's an R18 event, but there's nothing visually that would be disturbing. It's more based around stories and examples of harm. But it's incredibly powerful and incredibly moving.
So what will they feel and see?
They will see 1,000 books that have been with the hardcovers that reflect actual content that young people have seen and experienced online. And they, things like content around eating disorders and violence and beheadings and misogyny and porn. It's all the things that our young people can see. And I just really recommend that parents come along, because I think until we open our eyes to these uncomfortable conversations, we're not going to take action. Now, these are our kids.
It's like, it's like drink driving. Remember drink driving? And I remember this. We played rugby and we had a few beers, we drove. We didn't think about it. Then there were those ads that came in, and it was all, we were sort of, society was shunned for this, people were shunned. So we stopped. But it took all those brutal advertisements and, real message. And so that worked largely, because you look at the stats now, they've gone like that. They've gone down.
Yeah. What I hope is that people will come in and they will experience the library, and that they would come away feeling really empowered to take action in their own homes.
Motivated to do something.
Yeah, motivated to do something. That's my hope. Because I don't want people to just be, triggered and upset and to walk away freaked out. I want them to walk away feeling like, okay, we're going to take action and we're going to do the right things in our family to keep our kids safe.
Let's hope so. Because the government, I know you don't want to talk about this, but just briefly, government done anything?
Nothing's been done, no.
Yeah, that's probably the best place to leave that. God, it's appalling. Nothing's been done on vaping either. It seems to me that we're just guinea pigs to this. This is at the Auckland Normal? It's
at Auckland Normal Intermediate School. You can book your tickets online.
And so what's the link to that? Is it Ticketek?
It's Human Ticks.
Human Ticks. Yeah. Okay.
So we will, if you were just to Google search, what is it? World's Worst Children's Library.
Yeah, you'll get it from
Auckland.
There. Yes.
It will come up.
Okay, so World's Worst Children's Library. Go on there and have a look. It'll come up. Grab your ticket. It's open for how long?
It's open for just tomorrow from 9 to 12. They're 40-minute sessions.
Yeah.
And it's really showcasing the need for, Samsung and Safe Surfer have collaborated to do this because of the...
You need it to go longer.
I know. I think they should put the whole library into a bus and travel around New Zealand.
I think it should go... God, what a waste if it's just a day. Because there'll be lots of parents who can't get there tomorrow. Yeah. You'll keep this alive somehow, yeah? Because you've got the resource there now.
Yeah, we're in conversations around that. Yeah, the resources.
It's a mobile thing, isn't it? Yeah. It needs to be mobile.
It's got to be.
Yeah, you've got to take it to events.
It's fantastic. And,
take it to sports grounds on Saturday mornings.
Yeah. Parents with a security guard, because it's R18. Parents care, really do care. They're really worried about what's happening online.
Yeah. So they see their own kids' behaviours.
Yeah.
There's a young fella who I've had a bit to do with, a friend of my son, and he's just got a girlfriend for the first time in the last few months. He's almost 15, and he's the one that we all thought wouldn't have the girlfriend. Right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm hopeful about, and I'm really pleased about this, is how he has matured really quickly because he's been around her. He's really respectful. I've heard the discussions amongst some of the boys to him, and he pushes back on any shit that they give him. He's really respectful of her and defends her.
Amazing.
And all the boys they've just come down a level off their high horse and bullshit, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want for our boys and our girls. We want them to have great, healthy relationships.
Yeah, but we're not. But that's the problem with what we see on the internet, is that we're presented with stuff that's not real. Yeah. Yeah. And if boys think that is, then they're dreaming.
And this is why it's why it's so important that we talk to our kids about sex, about relationships, about content, because the messaging that they receive online is not going to be helpful for them whatsoever.
This is not normal, boys.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not how it's done if you think it is. Nice to see you, Holly. Awesome.
You too. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Yeah, interesting stuff. She does great work. Isn't that interesting, Isaac? The idea of the Worst Kids Library. It's a great idea, isn't it? Because as we've seen in there, some of the stuff there, it's really confronting stuff, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, hey, internet's a scary place, man. And if you don't really know how to use it properly, then you can very easily get into some very scary spots.
Yeah, you really can. So, I mean, that's a way to shock parents. Say, there's the library. That's what they're saying. You wouldn't let your kids in there, so let's do something about it. I quite like it. I quite like what they've done there. Good on her. Oh man, the government's asleep at the wheel.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Right, let us to the editor. We got one there. We got. Oh, this is a great one. I'll get you to read it, Isaac. But this is from a guy who often contacts us here, and this is about the interview we had with David White, father of Helen Mead, who was shot and killed. This is a note to him.
Says, Dear David, I think you're an absolute warrior. This is the second time I've heard an interview with you, and both times your story has brought tears to my eyes. When I was 8 years old, my auntie was murdered, so I know the impact of such horrendous acts stretch far beyond the victim, and the whole family suffers. I watched my granddad crumble with the loss of his only daughter. I saw this happen again when I was 21, when a friend of ours was murdered. She was only 22. I again saw her father crumble from the loss of his only daughter. What you've done is truly remarkable. You've taken unimaginable tragedy and transformed it into something positive, helping both victims and offenders while raising your grandchildren. Your strength, resilience, and dedication are nothing short of extraordinary. You embody what it truly means to be a man of compassion, courage, and purpose. The world is undeniably better with you in it.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. I appreciate that. That email. I urge people to go and watch that interview. So this is the podcast before we've done this one, and it's with David White, the father of Hana Mead. Go and have a look at it, because it might stop you in your tracks at what a 80-year-old white man has been able to achieve. I mean, even the stuff going into prisons and sitting there with these hardened, tough-ass criminals who would never in their day give David White the time of day any other time, but he was able to turn them around. It is emotional. And if you've got 20 minutes the next few days, please jump online, and wherever you get your podcast, it'll be there, because you got this one, so you'll get that one. So have a look at it, because I agree. I honour David White. And many, many times, this guy's a hero of mine. He's brilliant.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, that's us. Thank you for your feedback and support. Get in touch through our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, or flick me an email at duncan@rover.nz. To my team, Isaac, thank you, brother. Always appreciate everything you do, mate. And to my guys, thank you so much. Remember, life is no dress rehearsal, no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, so get out and enjoy it. Kids, be careful on the internet. Don't take silly pictures of yourselves. It'll come back to haunt you forever and a day. Okay, so have a great rest of the evening. Look out yourselves. Take care. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.